Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Rumian. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Rumian by Murdoc Games. Now, this is a sponsored video, and this is also a prototype copy in front of me, so all of the rules, components, and things like that are subject to change. And that being said, there's also a link down below for you to check out for the crowdfunding campaign so you can see everything that they have planned. Now, Rumian is going to be a competitive game for 2 to 4 players, playing around 45 to 90 minutes depending on the number of players, and it's going to be a game all about resource management. So it's a medieval themed game where you are playing as these different people that are trying to build up the city of Rumian, and whoever is able to contribute the most is going to be the one to win the game. And what that actually means is you're going to be gaining victory points throughout the game with multiple paths to victory. So you can achieve victory points from many different things, between quest cards and building things, but also battling, which is my favorite. And you're going to be doing all of that to attempt to achieve 14 victory points first, because whoever reaches that 14 victory point threshold is going to be the one to trigger endgame, and then after that, whoever is able to be the most prestigious will be the one that helped Rumian the most and built it up. So here on the board, you can see our central town, which is Rumian, and it behaves a little bit differently than the 3 different other areas on the board. We also have the mountains, the woodlands, and the countryside, and at the beginning of the game, players get these player boards where you have 4 action cubes for the different actions that you're going to be taking throughout your turn. So a player turn is going to consist of you placing these 4 different action markers for the actions that you would like to use, and you can see where you are limited to the number of times that you are able to do it. For example, these first 5 are able to be done twice, and then the final 3 are only able to be done once per turn. Now, players are going to be using these different actions turn after turn to try to achieve the 14 victory point mark, which is where you have this really cool little marker here that players are able to achieve if they are the winner of the game. But players are going to be moving around these different areas, trying to gain the resources which are on this side, and then being able to use those to craft goods in the different areas, which you can see on this side. But they're going to be dealing with not only other players, but also a wolf that is coming around to stop them as well. Now, before we get more into what the different actions do, I just want to shout out these 2 different boards. So this is that board that I showed you with all of the different actions on it, and it makes the actions very, very clear cut for everything that you're trying to do. But there's also this other board that is more of a reference for players, and it has basically everything that you can do in the game. So you're able to play with basically everything that you can see here in front of you on the table. And yes, you would read the rules to be able to start, but this is a really, really great reference that will have you getting up and going and playing pretty quickly. Taking a look at the actions that players are able to perform, the first one is so straightforward, it's gathering resources. So those are going to be the things on these sides here, such as the tools and the wood, and you are going to be able to collect 1 resource of that type. Now, there are going to be things that augment it, such as if you build a cottage in that area, but otherwise 1 action would be gathering 1 resource where your current marker is. Now, the next one is going to be move, but when you are moving, you are only able to move to an empty spot. So you can see on the current board where it's kind of tied up, players are able to be in the town together, but moving to these other spots, you would have to battle to be able to move there. So when you are moving, you are able to move to an empty area, but otherwise, if someone is already there when you want to move there, you would have to initiate a battle instead, which is the next one down. So when you are battling, you are moving into an area where there is already another player, and that player is the one that you are initiating in the battle. Now, when you do this, the attacker is going to roll 2 black dice, and then the defender is going to roll 2 white dice, and then after that, the highest result is going to win. However, the defender is going to win ties, so the defender is a little bit safer in that situation. But that being said, you are able to attempt a reroll, and that is why attempting to attack, first of all, you may just want to go to that particular area and need to be there anyway, but otherwise, you are able to attempt to reroll for those attacks as well. Now, to be able to reroll, you have all of your resources over here in this little tray here, and there is a tool resource, which is going to be the thing that allows players to reroll when battling. Now, you are only able to do this once, so both the attacker and the defender could choose to do this, but you are only able to do it once, so it's very, very tricky when you choose to use that. Now, when you are choosing to attack someone, not only are you being able to move into the area that they are currently in, but you are also going to gain a victory point. So that is going to get you closer and closer to victory, hopefully achieving more victory points than anyone else, and it is one of those paths to victory. So when you move an attack on someone, if you are the attacker and you are victorious, you would gain a victory point or one good from the defeated region. So you could choose to gain goods, especially early game if you feel that you need it. Otherwise, you could gain victory points, and the defending meeple would be moved back into the town. Now, the defender, if the defender wins, they would gain a resource from the defended region, but then nothing else would happen. They would all kind of just stay where they are. Now, you are able to battle twice in one turn, meaning that if you are unsuccessful, you could attempt to battle again to try to move into that area as another action in your second battle for that turn. But another thing to note for both battling and moving is that all of the regions are actually adjacent to each other. So you can basically get anywhere on the board from any of those movements. Now, there's also the wolf, and the wolf is going to be placed out depending on the different event cards that are drawn. So whenever a player, that is the player with the highest victory points, reaches an event threshold, so the event markers, you'll then draw a new event and move the wolf. The wolf will then attack a player if they happen to be there. For example, if we flip this over now, they're going to the mountain still, so that's actually not too bad, but this would have them moving to the woodlands. So they would move here to the woodlands, attack this player, the player would be moved into here and lose resources, but also the market would move to the countryside. So it's actually currently still in the countryside, and these are the current goods that are being accepted at the market. So none of this would change, but if this was different tokens, they would be shuffled out and moved to wherever the market went to as well. Now, when the wolf comes to attack you, it is bad, but not the worst. So if you have no resources, nothing happens. But if you have 5 or fewer, he's going to take one of those away from you. But if you have 6 or more, he's going to take 2, so he can be a bit dangerous. But you can also fight the wolf. So if you move into a region where the wolf is, you can fight them to hopefully gain resources, depending on what your role is. But the thing about a wolf is that when you are successful against them, you're able to move them to a different region, and then they can steal resources from someone else for you instead. Now, at the beginning of the game, players are going to start off with 2 quest cards, and these are going to be other ways that players are able to gain victory points throughout the game. For example, this is play this card immediately after playing the Thieves in the Night or the Pickpocket special card and gain 1 VP. Now, these are special cards that you're also able to purchase, which I'll go over, but that's an example of a quest that you're able to do to gain a victory point. Here's another one, the Gatekeeper. When you have 2 gates on the game board, gain 1 VP, or when you have 3 gates on the game board, gain 2 VP. So this one is optional, choosing when you would gain those different VP. You would reveal it, score the VP on the board. But something that players are able to do is also buy a card here as an action. Now, when you're buying a card, you are able to buy more quests, hopefully gaining victory points, but you are also able to buy these special action cards. So these are going to be special things that you're able to do on your turn as well, and you're able to play 1 quest and 1 special action card during your turn. So you are limited, you don't want to hold on to these too much, but these are things that are going to really change the game for you. For example, take 1 free action of your choice without placing an action marker. This card is not affected by the Scarecrow special card, so this is an extra free action that you would be able to do, and perhaps even take an action 3 times that turn, because this is going to allow you to do so. So those are the special cards that players are going to be able to buy on top of the quest cards, and that would be this action here. Now, the next action is build, and build is when players are going to be placing gates and their different cottages into the area. So cottages are going to be placed down here in these circle areas. That's where they're available to have a cottage placed. And the general area for a player marker is going to be here. So you would play to the center area, the cottages go down here. And then you are also able to have gates which go between each of the regions. So players are able to play gates if they would like to as well. And these are both going to cost you your basic resources. So for a cottage, it's going to cost you 1 stone, 1 wheat, and 2 wood. Whereas for a gate, it's going to cost you 1 stone, 1 wheat, and 1 wood. So the gates are a bit easier to play out because the cottages are very, very powerful. Now, I'm sure you've noticed there are not that many spots for these on the board. There are a total of these 4 cottage areas and only 3 gates. So once all of these areas are filled and you cannot build another cottage or gate, depending on which one you're trying to build, then you are able to remove a player's and build yours there. So this can be very, very strong to hold off and wait, because whenever you build these, you also gain victory points. So for the cottages, you gain 2 victory points, and for the gates, you gain 1 victory point. So these are going to be very, very important for you to start building, and then having them removed from you is going to really, really hurt. So when you do have a cottage in a specific area, when you gather resources, you are able to gain an additional resource. So in this area, the blue character would be able to gain an additional wood for the cottage that is currently here. And yes, they would be able to build another blue cottage in this area if all of the cottages were filled or if this space was vacant. Now, when players move through gates, when a player moves through another player's gate, the player that owns the gate will get a resource of that type. So even if either of these players went to move into this area through a battle, they would, this player would be able to gain a wood resource because they have a blue gate here until that gate is removed from them. Now, when we talk about multiple paths to victory, there are the battles that you're having with other players, and there are also the quest cards that you are completing. But building these buildings is going to be so important because they do give you these extra abilities, but they're also giving you victory points as you build them. So there are also going to be goods, which I'm going to get into next, but that's another thing that you are doing with the raw resources and then turning them into goods. But these different buildings you are able to do with just the raw resources, so they can be really, really strategic to build. Now, as I noted, the final action is going to be crafting goods, which you are only able to take once per turn, again, unless you have something that augments that a little bit to make it a bit better for you. But when you're crafting goods, you have to be in the respective region to be able to craft it. So for example, you have to be in the woodlands to be able to craft barrels, or the countryside to be able to craft bread. So once you are in the particular area that you want to be in to craft those goods, you are able to craft up to 3 goods depending on what you are able to pay. So you always need to pay 2 resources to create 1 good. So if you had, for example, 6 wood in your supply, you would be able to create 3 barrels, and even if you had 8 wood, you would only be able to create 3 barrels. But it is a 2-for-1 ratio where you are building up these different goods, which you will be able to use in future areas to gain yourself some victory points. Now, on a player's turn, you do have those 4 action cubes available to you, and you're able to do any of those actions that I just described, but you're also able to perform market actions. Now, again, you're still limited to those 4 actions, but within those, you're able to perform 2 different market actions, each of them 1 at a time. Now, with those, the market is going to move around. So with the different event cards, you have to hope for the market to move into the different areas that you want it to be in, and also be accepting the certain type of goods that you want to either sell or trade. So here you can see the market is currently in the countryside, and the 2 current goods are going to be gems and barrels. So those are the ones that you are able to sell. And when you choose to take the sell action, you are going to sell up to 3 goods of the same type. So you can see here in the countryside, we do have our market tile here, and it currently has gems and barrels on it. So if you were to take the sell goods action, you are able to sell up to 3 goods and gain 1 victory point each. So this is a very quick way for you to be able to gain 3 victory points and really jump ahead and possibly trigger an event. Now, the other thing that you're able to do is trade goods. And when you do so, you can trade up to 3 goods and gain 2 resources for each. So basically you're able to break down your goods back into their basic resources if you should choose to need the resources instead. Now, inside the town here, you might notice that it's a bit different and it does not produce goods, but it does have resources. That's because the council area is here, and the council area is how 2 players are going to be able to team up together to affect the player with the highest victory points. Once 2 players are in this area, they're able to target them to lose victory points, and once that player does so, they take a council token, meaning that they can't be targeted again for the rest of the game. This is a little tricky of a piece to understand unless you're playing the game, but the council is going to be where players are going to come together and try to get other players and entice them to try to join them to knock down the player that is currently in the lead. Now, if a player was in the lead and on an event space and they lost victory points, when that spot is reached again, an event would still trigger. So you wouldn't trigger an event again if someone is already above you. It's always the person with the highest amount of victory points. But that being said, that same event could possibly potentially be triggered multiple times if they were to lose victory points. Now, you would lose victory points from this council action, but when your buildings are removed from someone else building over them, you do not lose victory points for that. You basically gain points for building them as the action and not for having the building in play. Rumian is going to be one of those strategic, highly competitive games where every single victory point is really going to matter. You're only racing to 14, so everything that you do kind of gains you 1 to 3 victory points, and it's going to be very, very tight as everyone is battling to try to get there first. Now, the events are going to change where the wolf is moving around, and he does a little bit, but I think what really, really affects the game is going to be these special action cards. So you're only able to play 1 per turn. You're not able to break the game too much, but these cards can be very, very cool that some of them can gain you victory points, and that can be a way for you to gain them when you're very, very close to the end, but some of them can affect a lot of things such as your battles and stuff like that, so they can really, really make the game interesting and highly strategic. This has been a preview of Rumian. As I said, you can check out the link down below for everything that they have planned, and this has been a game by Murdoc Games. Thank you all for watching the Board Game Code channel. I've been Professor Meg, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!